How Nobuyuki Stole Christmas, as read by me. 'Twas the night before Christmas in the Masaki residence, but not all the occupants were asleep in their beds. Deep in a fantasy were Ayaka and Ryoko, imagining Teji kissing them under the mistletoe, and Sasami punching the air, killing an invisible rabbit. I guess for her, she just can't break that habit. Innocent Mahoshi was snoring, having that stereotypical dream. You know, where you're naked in front of everyone at the GXP. Meanwhile, at the shrine, Yosho dreamt he was in the kitchen, bossing girls around whilst he did his typical bitching. Downstairs, Washu worked wide awake in her lab, trying to perfect her latest medical jab. All the whilst down the hall looked something dumber. Our hero, Lord Tenchi, deep in his slumber. He stirred just a little and woke with a surprise to find that his dad wasn't gazing into his eyes. That's odd, he thought. He's normally here at this hour. Meh, I'm not complaining. Perhaps he's taking a shower. But that was not where he was lurking at all. Here's where our story gets dark and cool. Dad hated the whole Christmas season. Don't ask why. Even we don't know the reason. I know that's no excuse, and sounds rather lame, but those terrible Lighthawk Force writers are to blame. As you all know, Dad's head isn't screwed on right. His moustache is lame, and his tie is too tight. Something clicked as he looked up from his bowl. I'm going to make Christmas a big hellhole! But how to do it? He said with a frown. I know! I'll just take all these decorations down. But where do I hide them? What about the presents? I must take away it all to make my Christmas pleasant. But if I get caught, oh, what do I do then? That's when he caught sight of the mini statue in the den. He smiled smugly after concocting his plan. His first bright idea in years. How he felt like a man, grabbing a Santa Claus hat and a big red coat, whilst laughing insanely deep from his throat. He threw them on, wanting to be quick. With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. But what about those furry slaves Santa gets to pull him around? Since this is Japan, reindeer can't be found. But then, sleepily meowing, what cute pet should appear? Little Ryoki, you'll be my reindeer. What fate awaited Washu's poor furry daughter, who'd got out of her box for a sip of water. Dad grabbed her off the floor, she let out a yelp, but despite her struggle, she couldn't be helped. With some thread and the antlers of a moose, he tied them to her head, tighter than a noose. Then he grabbed some old carrier bags and some old burlap sacks. He set off into the night snow, covering his tracks. Ryoki transformed into a massive spaceship, then quiet as a mouse, onto the roof she did slip. Dad got out and yelled, "Thanks for the ride!" Whilst Ryoki struggled to get out of the antlers he tied. Dad stared at the chimney. "It ends here," he hissed, all of his bags clenched up in his fist. "Now I designed this house, so if I don't fit, it's all my own fault, and I'll feel like shit." He only got stuck once for a moment or two. His head stuck out of the fire into the living room. Moaning and groaning, covered in ashes and soot, he finally crawled out, dislodging his other foot. He coughed and sprawled out across the floor. "It's funny, I could swear I've been here before." Then his eyes they did twinkle as he glanced up from where he lay. He saw the tree glistening in all its dazzling array. He sprang into action, grabbing stockings above the fire, and loading his arms with all he could acquire. He stuffed them in his bags and then very nimbly stuffed them one by one up through the chimney. Sprinting to the kitchen past his unfinished bowl, he emptied all the cupboards, was he on a roll. He emptied the fridge, he emptied the freezer, he emptied the liquor cabinet after a quick Bacardi breezer. After removing it all, he admired his work. With a smug little laugh, he turned with a jerk. Then back up the chimney he heard a choir, so he chucked at them the log from the fire. "Grr! Carol singers!" he went, but then he did grin, for now he wouldn't have to tolerate their din. But now his dilemma, where the stuff should he hide? Then he thought of the lake frozen over with ice. So he loaded Ryoki, still pissed off at her roll, and unloaded her cargo into an ice hole. then back to the house and back to his pud.
This Yule log tastes pretty good. I'll go to the cupboard and have a bit more. Hey! Well, I guess Sasami forgot to shop, fat whore.
He chucked down his spoon and went up to sleep, whilst moaning that girls don't earn their keep. I suppose that it seems Dad is really dim. I often do wonder what happened to him. As he got into bed, it was 15:15 dawn, so let's fast forward, shall we, to when they awoke that morn. Yosha walked from the shrine, doing his usual humming. Dad giggled, knowing no Christmas was coming.
They'll walk downstairs, I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then they will all start to cry boo-hoo. They'll huddle together, and then that's my cue. I'll comfort them all, man, it'll be so hot. I must listen out carefully, or I'll miss my shot.
So he paused and listened carefully with his ear, then recoiled in his bed, for what did he hear? Washi was cackling and Ryoko was drunk, Sasami complaining, Ayaka stank like a skunk, Mihoshi struggling, getting caught in sellotape, and Tenchi ringing the police, trying to press charges for rape. Yosho moaning no one was making him food. So Dad stomped down the stairs, and boy was he rude.
What the hell's going on?
He yelled at them all.
I thought Christmas was over. Is this a cheesy miracle?
Washu cackled and yelled.
No, you dimwit. You do this every year, you crazy misfit. So I clone everything in my cloning machine and hide it all somewhere that can never be seen. So we all get up early and redecorate the place. My highlight of the year is to see the look on your face!
And so, poor Dad's plans were thwarted, much to his dismay. To all out there, have a Merry Christmas Day. But before we sign off, the moral of this story, if you don't behave, kids, Dad will appear, and it will be gory. You'll soon find out what makes Tenchi's life so unpleasant. So if you don't want to be subjected to this horrible fate, subscribe to us now, and your Christmas shall be great.